Good afternoon, everyone. Let us start. Do you remember we have been learning Chapter 6, Geomorphic Processes or Fundamentals of Physical Geography? Today we shall discuss about significance of weathering and mass movement. Now let me present my screen. Significance of weathering, that is usefulness or importance of weathering. Now let us read. Weathering processes are responsible for breaking down the rocks into smaller fragments and preparing the way for the formation of not only regolith and soils but also erosion and mass movements. Okay. So weathering, as you know, this is a process of breaking down rocks into smaller pieces, and this breaking down of rocks prepares the way for the formation of regoliths. Okay, so regolith here means this is a layer, okay, of loose rock or other materials resting on this bedrock. See here, let us say this is a bedrock, okay, and so due to weathering process, above it you may find small pieces of withered material, okay, covering this bedrock, and this is known as regolith. Okay, then means weathering prepares the way for the formation of regoliths, that is the rock fragments, and the soils, and it also helps in the erosion and the mass movement activities. Okay, see, when there is a very big mass of rock, it cannot be moved very easily. For example, this is a very big rock and it cannot be moved on its own, but when it is broken into smaller pieces, okay, and the running water and other agents may carry away very easily. So in this way, weathering helps in the erosion activities and the mass movements. Okay, and see, erosion here cannot be significant if rocks are not weathered, as I told you. Okay, erosion cannot be significant, means cannot be worked if rocks are not broken into smaller pieces. It is very difficult to erode a very hard rock, okay, but when it is broken into smaller pieces, it can be carried away easily by different agents. That is the point mentioned here. That means weathering adds mass wasting. Okay, weathering adds mass wasting, then erosion, reduction of relief, and changes in landforms. Okay, so all these are a consequence of this erosion. So weathering helps in the complete reduction of relief sometimes. Okay, see here, this is a relief, and due to the weathering activity, this may be broken and it may be carried away. Okay, and so this relief may be completely reduced to a low-lying area. So in this way, weathering helps in the erosion activities and a complete reduction of relief into a featureless plain. Withered rocks, okay, withering of rocks and deposits help in enrichment and a concentration of certain valuable ores of iron, manganese, aluminium, these copper, which are of great importance for national economy. So because of the weathering of the rocks, concentration of the certain valuable minerals like iron ore, manganese, aluminium, copper is increased. Okay, see, when there is chemical weathering in the rocks, the soluble materials may be dissolved, okay, by the water, and when the soluble materials are relieved, are dissolved by this liquid or water, then concentration of the certain minerals as given here will be increased. And we know that these minerals are very important for the economy of a country, and weathering is an important process in the formation of soils. So we must know that the ultimate product of weathering is the formation of soils. If there were no weathering process, then soils would not have been formed. Okay, so in this way, weathering is very important for the formation of soils. Then weathering is important. It helps in the erosion activities. It helps in the mass wasting of materials. Okay, and again let us read more about this enrichment. Okay, enrichment. See, when rocks undergo weathering, some materials are removed through chemical or physical leaching by groundwater, and thereby the concentration of remaining valuable material increases. Without such a weathering taking place, the concentration of the same valuable material may not be sufficient and economically viable to exploit, process and refine, and this is what we call enrichment. So in this way we get bauxite. Okay, see, about occurrence of the minerals in the rocks we have learned in class 10 also, and bauxite may also be obtained in this way when the soluble materials, as I told you. Okay, for example, this is a mass of rocks, and here certain useful minerals may be present. Okay, and these soluble materials are dissolved due to rainwater and this running water, and in this way concentration of these minerals will be increased. And sometimes when all these soluble materials are removed, dissolved by water, then these minerals may remain as a residue on the surface. Okay, so in this way we also get this bauxite, and likewise other minerals also obtained in this way. And this process of increasing concentration of the minerals in certain rocks is known as enrichment. Okay, enrichment. Increase in the concentration of valuable minerals in the rocks due to leaching process, due to solution process by groundwater, rainwater and running water is known as enrichment process, or simply we may call it enrichment. So any question from your side about this significance of weathering? If you don't have questions, then let me continue. Next we have mass movements, another topic. Okay, so definition is given here. Mass movements refer to the transfer of mass of rock debris down the slope under the direct influence of gravity. So mass movement means transfer of mass of rock debris, mass of rock fragments and the soil materials down the slope under the direct influence of gravity. That means air, water or ice do not carry the debris with them from place to place, but on the other hand the debris may carry with it air, water or ice. So in case of mass movement, geomorphic agents like running water, then glacier, then wind do not carry the debris. In case of mass wasting, the debris, the rock materials carry air, water and the ice. Okay, have you got the point? In case of mass wasting, the debris, the rock fragments carry air, water or ice. Unlike transportation, in case of transportation, running water, then glacier or wind carry the rock debris. So this is the main difference between this mass movement and transportation. And the movement of this mass, that is mass movement, may range from the slow to rapid. Okay, so mass movement may be ranging between slow to rapid, affecting shallow to deep columns of materials, and this mass movement include creep, then flow, slide and fall. So these are the three important forms of a mass movement. Okay, so creep, you know, creep means a slow longitudinal movement of materials. For example, soil creep. Okay, soil creep is the best example of creep. And see here, see this diagram here. So sometimes you may be seeing that this is a slope of a mountain, and say you may install electric poles vertically. Okay, this is the electric poles, but after some years you may find that the electric poles is inclined like this. This is because of the creeping of the soil. The soil is moving very slowly down the slope under the influence of gravity, and this is known as soil creep. Okay, this process is known as soil creep. See here in this diagram, here the electric poles, okay, electric poles are inclined. Likewise, you may find sometimes trees growing in this way. Okay, see, for example, the tree is growing like this, and this is because of soil creeping. The mass of the soil material is moving down this slope. This is known as soil creeping. Okay, and likewise we have flow. See, flow means free movement of materials. Liquid may be involved, may not be involved. Then sliding, okay, sliding of the materials against the slope or bedrock, and falling down of materials, okay, from a cliff. So these are the three important forms of this mass movement. And see, mass movements are very active over weathered slopes rather than over the unweathered materials that we have learned earlier. Weathering helps in the mass movements. Okay, mass movements are very active over the weathered slopes rather than the unweathered material. And see here, if you are using these old edition books, you may find some other types of mass movements. Okay, some of the important types of mass movements I have reproduced here in the form of diagram. Okay, so one of the most important one is solifluction. Okay, solifluction, that is the flowing down of soils, solifluction. Here solifluction. So we have a photograph of solifluction here. That is the movement, okay, moving down of the soil materials, okay, flowing down of the soil materials down the slope. This is solifluction. And next we have this earth flow, okay, flowing down of the earth material down the slope. That is earth flow. Then we have this mud flow, okay, flowing down of mud, just like this in a channel, okay, just like a river. That is mud flow. And here we have a photograph of mud flow here. Okay, mud is flowing down. And then we have this slump. It will be learning later on, okay. Then debris flow will be learning. Then debris slide, okay. Then rock fall. Then soil creeping. Soil creeping just we have learned now, okay. So these are the important types of mass movement, okay, mentioned in the old edition books. So let me continue. Mass movements are aided by gravity, and no geometric agents like running water, then glacier, wind, waves, and currents participate in the process of mass movement. As I told you earlier, mass movement is mainly caused by gravity, okay, is mainly added, generated by gravity and the slope. And no geometric agent like running water, glacier, wind, waves, and currents participate in the process of mass movement. That means mass movement do not come under erosion, okay. Mass movement do not come under the category of erosion, though there is a shift added by gravity of material from one place to another, okay. So you must know that mass movement does not come under erosion and transportation, because in case of erosion and transportation, see, agents like running water, glacier, wind, waves, current carry the material. In case of mass movement, these agents do not carry the material. The material itself is moving down the slope under the influence of gravity, okay. And air, water, and ice is carried by the material itself. And here some factors favorable for the mass movements are given here. Weak unconsolidated materials, thinly bedded rocks, okay. See, the conditions favorable for the mass movements are given here. The first one is weak unconsolidated material, means loose materials, okay. The surface may be covered with loose material, rock fragments. Then thinly bedded rocks. Thinly bedded rocks means see, here actually this is a very thin layer, for example, of rock. This is called a bed, and this is another bed, okay. And this is what we call thinly bedded rocks. So this condition is also favorable for the mass wasting. Then faulting process. Faulting process, I think you have learned earlier. This faulting process, some part of the earth may be subsided, which I have explained you earlier, okay. So these are the different formations. And here, because of subsidence, the first layer comes here. This is known as faulting process. Then steeply dipping beds, okay. So here steeply dipping beds means this one. Here this photograph, diagram, okay. So this is a bed, and this is another bed, and this plane is known as bedding plane, okay. The plane, okay, between the two bed is known as bedding plane, and this bedding plane may be inclined at a certain angle. Say for example, this is a bed, okay, and another bed also may be here, and so this is the bedding plane. And if we draw an imaginary horizontal plane, then one angle is formed here. This angle is known as div, okay, as you find here. This is the horizontal plane, and this is the bedding plane, okay, bed and a bedding plane, and one angle is formed here, and this is called div, okay. And if the angle of div is very steep, then it helps in the mass wasting process. Then vertical cliff or steep slopes. Okay, cliff, you know, this very steep one, so this is a cliff, okay. If the slope is very vertical like this, so it helps in the mass wasting process. Then torrential rains and precipitation. Then scarcity of vegetation, means land without vegetation. So these are the important factors favorable for the mass movements. So up to here, any question? Up to here, any question?
No, sir.
Okay, then let me proceed. Several activating these causes precede mass movements. Okay, so we have some activating forces which start a mass movement. Okay, so those activating these forces or causes are these: number one, removal of support from below. Okay, removal of support from below to materials above through natural or artificial means. So this one we mainly find in the mining areas. Okay, removal of support. Say for example here, this is the surface, and sometimes we may do this underground mining. We may dig tunnels for underground mining. So this is what I call removal of support, and sometimes this may be collapse. Okay, so this is what we call removal of support from below to materials above through natural or artificial means. Then number two, increase in grazing and height of the slough. Due to some activities, the slough, okay, grazing here means the slough. The slope may be increased. Say for example here, this is the original slope, and sometimes due to the construction of the road we may cut this section, okay, and thus increasing the slope, the steepness of the slope, and this also lead to the this mass movement. Okay, that is what we call this increase in the gradient, means increase in the slope, steepness of the slope. Then number three, overloading through addition of materials naturally or by artificial filling. Sometimes on the top of the mountain we may put some more loads. Okay, see here, due to some activities here, for example we are constructing one building here, then we may remove this material and we may be throwing down this material here on the slope. So this is what we call this overloading through addition of materials naturally or artificial filling. This also helps in the mass movement. Then number four, overloading due to heavy rainfall. Then a saturation, lubrication of slop material. Sometimes the soil may absorb a lot of water due to heavy rainfall, and the soil may be totally wet, that is saturated, and because of that there may be lubrication and the material may be moving down like a mud flow, for example. Then number five, removal of material or load from over the original slope surfaces that we explained earlier, okay, from anywhere say the materials may be removed from any place. Okay, say for example maybe from here, maybe from the top, or maybe from here. Then occurrence of earthquakes, then explosions or machinery. When there is earthquakes, there is shaking and trembling of the earth surface, and because of that there may be mass movement. For example, landslide may be there when there is earthquake. Then number 7, excessive natural seepage, that is excessive infiltration of water, okay, in the soil. Then heavy drawdown of water from lakes, reservoirs, or to slow outflow water from under the slopes of riverbank. That means heavy drawdown of water means this heavy release of water, okay, heavy release of water from the lakes and the dams. And when there is release of water from the dams and reservoir, then it increases the volume of the channels, maybe river channel or these canals, and because of that there may be a mass movement. Then last one is the indiscriminate this removal of the natural vegetation. That means deforestation process. So these are the 9 important activating causes for the mass movements. Okay, so any question from your side?
No, sir.
Okay, then let us proceed. Heave, that is the heaving up of soils due to frost and other causes. Then flow and slide are the 3 forms of movements. Okay, heave, then flow and slide are the 3 important forms of mass movement. Heaving, you know, this is the heaving up of soil due to frost growth. Yesterday we learned that when water turns into ice, it is expanded. So for example, here say we have some pores, some holes are there, and when the water turns into ice, then it is expanded, and because of that the soil may be heaving up. Okay, that is one of the mass wasting process. Then flow we have learned earlier, sliding we have learned earlier. And figure 6.5 shows the relationship among different types of mass movements, their relative rates of movement, and the moisture limit. Actually figure number 6.5 we don't find here in this new edition book. This is 6.6, but you will find in the old edition book. Okay, I have reproduced that diagram. It is here. This is the figure number 6.5. And if you see this diagram, so you'll find that when there is more water, okay, when the material is wet, then movement is fast. Okay, when it involves liquid, when the material is wet, then the movement is fast. And generally when the material is dry, okay, sometimes the movement is slow, like the soil creep. But sometimes some of the movements are very rapid if it is dry. So for example, landslide and rockslide, the material may be very dry, but the slope may be very stiff. Okay, so in this way you may see this diagram if you have. Next we have landslide. So this is one of the types of these mass movements. So landslides are relatively rapid and perceptible, means can be seen by our naked eye movement. Okay, landslides are relatively rapid and perceptible movements, and the materials involved are relatively dry. Okay, in case, as you know. And see, we have I think everybody are familiar with the landslide also. See here, here this is a scene of landslide. I think you are very much familiar with landslide. The material involved here are relatively dry. but the movement is very rapid and it can be seen very easily. And the size and the shape of the detached mass depends on the nature of discontinuities in the rock, then the degree of weathering. If the rock is not totally weathered, then the size of the material is big. If the bedrock is weathered totally, then the size of the debris is small. Then it also depends on the stiffness of the slope. Okay, so depending upon the types of movement of materials, several types of landslide are identified, and they are given below. So the first important type of landslide is slump. And see, slump is slipping of one or several units of rock debris with a backward rotation with respect to the slope over which the movement takes place. See this figure. Okay, so here we have the backward rotation, and this is known as slump. Okay, so this is a type of landslide. Actually, see, I think you may be seeing the diagram also. See here, let us say this is the slough. Okay, and as you have seen in the, say it was the former, this was the former surface, and when it is slide down, okay, so here it is it has a backward rotation. Say a tree was growing here, and the tree is inclined against this slope. So this is what we call backward rotation. Okay, this is what we call backward rotation, and the tree may be buried here when it is totally rotated in this way. So this is known as what? This is known as slump. Okay, that means there is a backward rotation against the slope, and this is known as this slump. As you see here, when this portion is slided, okay, so the materials are turning towards the slope, and this is known as slumping. See, the tree is leaning towards the slope. This is what we call backward rotation. And we have one photograph of this slump. Okay, see here, and see here, this is an example of slump. Okay, here you will be seeing that it has a backward rotation towards the slope like this. And next we have this rapid rolling or sliding of earth debris without backward rotation is known as debris slide. If the debris, that means the rock materials, rock fragments are sliding down without backward rotation, it is known as debris slide. Okay, it is known as debris slide. And say debris slide, actually this is a kind of landslide. Okay, but the size of the material is small. Then debris fall is nearly free fall of the earth debris from a vertical or overhanging face. This is for the debris fall. For the debris slide, okay, the materials are sliding down the slope. And in case of this debris fall, the slope is very steep and the materials are just falling down on the floor. Okay, that is what we call debris fall. So we have some photographs of this debris fall. See here. Here the rock materials are falling down steep from a steep slope area. This is what we call debris fall. And then sliding of individual rocks, masses, down bedding, joint or fall surface is known as rock slide. Okay, just see here we have one diagram also. See here. Here these blocks of rocks are just sliding okay, against the slope of the this rock bed rock. This is what we call this rock slide. Okay, this is what we call rock slide. And see here, here this is a photograph showing rock slide. Actually, debris slide, debris fall, rock slide, these are coming under landslide, but the size of the material does matter. Okay, see, if the size of the material is small, okay, then we call it debris slide or debris fall. If the size of the material is big, we call it rock slide or rock fall. Okay, then see, over steep slopes, rock sliding is very fast and destructive. Okay, you must know that. And some more these are also there. Rock fall. So rock fall is the free falling. Okay, is the free falling of rock blocks over any steep slope, keeping itself away from the slope. Simply falling down of a big block of rock from a cliff. Okay, so from this area, if a very big rock is just falling down on the surface, that is called rock fall. Just you may see one photograph. Okay, see, one very big rock is falling down from the slope. This is what we call rock fall. Okay, and this is also another example, rock fall, falling down of rock materials. Okay, and so these are the important these types of landslide. We have slump. Okay, we have slump. So in case of slump, there is backward rotation of the materials. Then in case of debris slide, simply this is the sliding of the debris without backward rotation. Then debris fall. Actually, this is the free fall of the debris, that is the art material, rock fragments. And then sliding, okay, rock slide, sliding of big rocks against a bedding plane. Then we have rock fall, falling down of big rocks from a steep slope. Okay. Up to here, any question, boys and girls? Yes, Liantela, do you have any question?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, then see here, let me finish this section. Okay, see here, in our country, debris avalanche, that means debris slide and landslide occur very frequently in the Himalayan areas. Okay, in the Himalayan region, we find debris avalanche, debris slide, and a landslide in the Himalayan mountains. So there are many reasons. For the landslide and the debris avalanche along the Himalayan mountain. So one reason is that the Himalayan mountains are tectonically active. Okay, so these earthquakes very frequently occurred along the Himalayan mountains, tectonically active. Then these mountain ranges, especially the Shivaliks, okay, ranges are mostly made up of sedimentary rocks and unconsolidated, that means loose and semi-unconsolidated deposits. The Shivaliks are mainly composed of loose material, and that is why these landslides are very frequent along the Himalayan mountains. At the same time, the slopes of the Himalayan mountains are very steep, are very, very steep. And for the South Indian hills, like as compared to the Himalayan mountains, the Nilgiri hills, okay, bordering Tamil Nadu, Kerala, along the west coast are relatively tectonically stable and mostly made up of very hard rocks. Unlike the Himalayan mountains, okay, Nilgiri hills are tectonically stable, means no earthquakes or little earthquakes. No faulting process nowadays, and the rocks are also very hard. But still, landslide and debris avalanches are very common along the Nilgiri hills. Why? So many reasons are given here. See here, many slopes are steeper with almost vertical cliff and escarpments in the Western Ghats and the Nilgiris. Actually, the slopes of the Nilgiri hills are very steeper than the Himalayan mountain, and sometimes almost vertical, just like a cliff. And the escarpment also very steep. Escarpment means that is the end point of a plateau. Okay, escarpment means, say for example, this is a plateau. Okay, and so this end point of a plateau is known as escarpment. Okay, and mechanical weathering due to temperature changes and range of temperature is very great. Mechanical weathering, physical weathering is very active in Nilgiri hills due to change in the temperature. Okay, at the same time, Nilgiri hills receive very heavy amount of rainfall. The western slope of the Nilgiri hills receive more than 400 centimeters in a year. Okay, and that is why there is almost direct rockfall from the steep slopes of the Nilgiri hills. So this is about debris slide and landslide, okay, in the Himalayan mountains and the Nilgiri hills. Okay, any question from your side?
No, sir.
Okay, then up to here for today. Thank you very much for joining my class.
Thank you, sir.